So there's this fellow has been saying Kaddish, the prayer of mourning all year for his deceased father. And sadly, the next year, his mother passed away. But this time he didn't come to the synagogue to say the Kaddish. When the rabbi challenged him, he said, I know my father's in heaven. I helped him get there. I said Kaddish all year. But if I send my mother there, it won't be heaven anymore for either of them. This week we think about a leader, an idea that challenges us to the basic narrative of our history. We all know something very specific about the Jewish tradition. In our tradition, there's so many words. There's so many mitzvot. There's so many ways we are expected to connect in the way we eat, what we eat, in the most personal details of our relationships, of the way we work, the way we rest, the way we wake up, the way we go to sleep. It at times seems very overwhelming. Korach was a man who challenged Moses in the desert and said, we're all holy. We were all at the foot of Mount Sinai. We all went through the bondage and the struggle, and we all are searching for and fighting for freedom and for justice and for a life of purpose. Who are you? Why do I need your voice? Why do we need a leader, intermediary between us and God, between us and our soul, constantly coming up with myriads of ways of that we need to or we should or connect to each other and specific ways of behavior? It's way too overwhelming. So Korach begins a rebellion in the desert and says, Moses, you're exaggerating. We don't even need you. We'll find our own way. We're all sacred. You're exaggerating all these different things, different areas, different ways that we need to continuously try to connect and to reconnect. And what we discovered was Moses refracts the light for us, allows us to incorporate our greatest ideals in our day-to-day life. A true spiritual leader is someone who's immersed in a vision and remains to us a beacon of light that shows us a vision of our greatest potential, of a life where there's nothing neutral. Everything is sacred. Everything should be sacred. And I can create touch points of holiness, of goodness in every area of my life. I need to. This week, we reflect on the legacy of the Rebbe, who inspired this community as he did thousands of others in our generation. It's the 30th anniversary of his passing. And his presence continues to inspire people around the world. And the question, again, that we need to reflect on is, what does a true spiritual leader do for us? Is the Korach inside us? Is that voice that says, I got this, I'll wing it, I'll figure it out? Or do we need to look back at a vision of a Rebbe? Could we find a voice of clarity? Could we identify leaders who truly allow us to see the world how it could be, how it should be, how it ought to be? I think this is something great to reflect on this week at the anniversary of the Rebbe's passing, while we read this story of Moses and his cousin Korach, who challenges us. Could we ascribe, could we allow ourselves to focus and be inspired by a vision, a Jewish vision, of creating the sacred in every area of life? Could we look at every day and every encounter as an opportunity to make the world a better place? Do we feel compelled? Do we feel the need to move forward and expand our spiritual vocabulary, expand our comfortability with another mitzvah, another way of connecting to each other, to God, to our people? This is something that I'm thinking about this week, and I hope we could all be thinking about. Shabbat Shalom.